that the Prime Minister's advice to Her Majesty was unlawful, void and of no effect.
In a shocking turn of events, Labour leader Keir Starmer finds himself in an increasingly precarious position as a judge delivers a damning message to his administration. This intervention comes at a time when Starmer's government is reeling from a series of political missteps, triggering a frenzy within his team. With every new disaster, it seems karma has caught up with him in ways no one expected. But what exactly has led to this judicial intervention? And why is Starmer now left in a state of confusion? Before we continue, I have one small request. If you're enjoying this deep dive into British politics, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Britain Briefed. Believe it or not, over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. It's completely free and it helps us keep bringing you the hard-hitting stories that matter. Now let's get back to it. The latest shockwave to hit the Labour Party stems from a high-profile protest that escalated into an embarrassing situation for the government. Labour's farming minister, Daniel Zeichner, found himself trapped in a taxi, surrounded by furious farmers who were protesting the party's controversial inheritance tax changes. These farmers were not just voicing their concerns, they were physically preventing Zeichner from leaving his vehicle. The video footage of this dramatic confrontation quickly went viral, showing the Labour minister in an uncomfortable and politically damaging situation. This was just the latest in a series of blunders that have eroded Starmer's political credibility. The response from the Labour government, however, raised more eyebrows. Instead of addressing the farmers' grievances and engaging in meaningful dialogue, the government's focus was on condemning the protesters' tactics. They insisted that no policy changes would be made, displaying an unwillingness to listen to the very voters who feel alienated by Labour's policies. When the situation escalated, rather than standing firm and facing the protesters head-on, Zeichner and Environment Secretary Steve Reed retreated to a taxi and called the police. The optics of this episode were disastrous for Labour, highlighting a growing divide between the party and rural communities, a crucial demographic in British politics. This incident with the farmers was just the beginning. Starmer's leadership has been plagued by a series of political failures that have left his government struggling to regain its footing. One of the most glaring issues is his handling of international trade, particularly with the United States. The UK is facing the threat of a massive 10% tariff from the US, placing the country in the same category as developing nations like Uruguay and Kenya. This tariff is set to cause significant harm to Britain's automotive industry, with a 25% tariff looming over car exports. For a nation that once prided itself on its strong trading position, this is a painful blow. Starmer's handling of these trade negotiations has been widely criticised, with many experts pointing out that his focus on securing a trade deal with the US is misguided. Rather than prioritising Britain's most important trading partner, the European Union, Starmer's government has chosen to focus on American relations. Commentators, including those on LBC, have raised concerns that this approach is short-sighted. The first step should have been to repair Britain's fractured relationship with Europe. A sensible deal with the EU could boost the British economy by 1.5%, potentially offsetting some of the damage caused by the looming tariffs from the US, especially in regions like the north of England. Yet Labour's strategy remains unclear, with the government instead focusing on a bizarre retaliation plan that targets American goods like bourbon, whiskey, motorcycles and jeans. This approach has been widely criticised as weak and ineffective, and even Labour's own Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, has admitted that the government is stuck in a 4-week consultation period with no real action in sight. Back at home, the Labour Party's woes continue to mount. Starmer's government has faced severe backlash over its education policies as well. In what can only be described as a baffling decision, Starmer appointed Ollie Deberton as an advisor on education and skills. Deberton, who co-founded the failed free school School 21, now holds significant influence over the country's education strategy. Under his leadership, School 21 struggled to meet national academic standards with performance in key subjects like mathematics, lagging 15% behind national averages. Despite this track record, Starmer chose to give him a prominent role in shaping the future of Britain's education system. This appointment has raised serious concerns, with critics accusing the Labour government of prioritising ideological alignment over actual competence. It's not just the education system that's under scrutiny. Labour's disastrous handling of the inheritance tax issue highlights a broader failure to understand the needs and concerns of the British public. The party's failure to listen to voters, particularly in rural areas, has created a sense of disillusionment and frustration. Rather than engaging with the people directly, Starmer's administration has alienated key voting blocs, eroding the Labour Party's credibility and leaving Starmer with fewer allies to turn to. To make matters worse, Starmer's weekend was anything but relaxing. Reports suggest that he spent the majority of it on the phone, desperately begging world leaders to help him with Donald Trump's tariffs. It's a sad reflection of how far the Labour leader has fallen, struggling to secure international support while his government flounders domestically. Even within his own party, there's growing discontent. Starmer's handling of the Brexit fallout, his unrelenting focus on American relations, and his inability to rein in his ministers' missteps have led many to question whether he has the political acumen to lead the country forward. But just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, a judge stepped in. The ruling against Starmer's administration has left the Labour Party scrambling for answers. With public opinion sinking and political crises mounting, Starmer now finds himself in the fight of his life to salvage his leadership and the Labour Party's future. What does this mean for the upcoming general election? Will the public punish Labour for its missteps, or will Starmer manage to turn things around before it's too late? One thing is certain, the next few months will be critical for Starmer and his team. With a judge now demanding answers to some of his most controversial decisions, the pressure is mounting, and Starmer's ability to navigate these challenges will determine the fate of his political career. So as the situation continues to unfold, one thing remains clear. Karma has indeed caught up with Keir Starmer, and the consequences of his actions are now being felt in ways he could never have anticipated.